3 for your low frequency, and then you've still got 2. You can detune and do fifths and all that sort of stuff. So in that way, it's a bit more powerful actually, and it's got a duller tone. It's not as sweet as the Prophet 6, and the OB6, which is my favourite synth of all time, has got that lovely swirly notchy thing, but you're not going to get really kind of funky basses out of that because it's a 12 dB filter. So oh, I can hear myself. I don't know where I'm hearing myself. This is weird. It was something I played. I don't know. But yeah, Trigon 6, cracking synth, definitely. I made this one of the first pads, I think it was. It's this Gersey tone. I'll try and find it. There we go. 4 minutes or so left.
Okay, just waiting for Jamie to finish up.
But he was using a legato on the Trigon 6 Geo. What I call the bank paradox. That was it. Yeah. So it's paradox sound.
All right, give me a moment here. Okay. All right. Where am I going to put this? I'll throw it over here, I guess. Don't step on it later. Okay. All right. Do. Ba-da-ba-bum. Okie dokie. So, here we go. For this episode of the Playhouse, we're going to talk about feedback in FM/PM. And what we're going to do most of the stuff in today is related to the long feedback algorithms in the DX7, because they are very much underexplored and underused, and they are, pretty unique across Yamaha's systems of FM, because nothing's like this in any other 4-op systems and stuff like that until they brought FMX back into the montage, where they, of course, copied these algorithms. There's not a lot of machines that do them, and it does some quirky stuff that's interesting and definitely contributes to some timbres and stuff that is not typically what someone would consider a DX sound, as it were. So let's see here. Let's go ahead. All right. So to do something a little different, I'm going to actually be using a OG 6-op machine here. Technically it's a Mark II, but what I mean by that, I'm not doing a whole bunch of fancy stuff in the AFM venue today, because a lot of people have mentioned that they don't have the SYs, want to do some things that would apply a little more to hardware that they have, and of course this applies to any Yamaha Clone 6 op hardware and most softwares that are out there. Although, interestingly enough, in setting up this stream for today, I realized that the Korg Op6 and the Essence FM actually implement their feedbacks a little bit different, and so as much as I wanted to use the Essence FM for this, I couldn't do it because it does not behave the way the Yamahas do. So let's talk about what this is. So as I had from the graphic before, long feedback is where you have a feedback loop that's spanning over more than one operator. And so the two algorithms in the DX7 is the operator 4, which is the 3-stack loop, and then operator 6, which is the 2-stack loop. And we're going to get into the weeds a little bit on a couple of things, but you're going to see this all comes back to approaching FM from an ear standpoint, because it gets way too complex to have any predictive insight, but it is very useful. Anyway, so let's start with this first patch. So this first patch I have called up here is going to demonstrate the 2-operator feedback stack of operator 6. So what I've got this set up for right now is we're going to be comparing single operator feedback with 2-operator feedback by switching back and forth between algorithms 5 and 6. So let's back up and talk about what the feedback loop is in a Yamaha DX architecture. Basically, it is self-modulation of an operator by itself. Now, if you remember how FM works, essentially as you increase the feedback of an operator, you change its wave shape from a sine to something approaching a sawtooth wave. So therefore, when it's a operator with self-feedback modulating another operator below it, you have a sawtooth wave modulating your sine wave instead of a sine wave. And so we're pretty much used to the classic sound of what that is. So this is a demonstration of standard feedback of operator 6 self-modulating itself to operator 5. Let me close down this window so we can see the waveform. So everybody's pretty familiar with this behavior. What feedback basically does with the interaction between your carrier and your modulators is, of course, give you more harmonics at a given modulation index. So I've turned the feedback off, and without it, of course, it sounds like this. And that's sort of the classic FM sound that everybody's familiar with the way that the Bessel functions and the phase cancellations and the whole FM phenomenon works. So I'm going to turn it up all the way. So that's your one-to-one operator relationships of the carrier and the modulator without the feedback. As we start increasing the feedback, we now have more harmonics in our modulator. Okay, and so each one of those harmonics is going to modulate your carrier, so we're going to get more bandwidth at any given amount of index. So that's no feedback. Let's back that down. So what's important to have that you notice with your ear here is that you have high harmonic content evolution that is more, I'm going to misuse the term linear, that you're familiar with. In other words, it sounds more like a filter motion than the typical FM evolution, because of course the FM evolution is dictated by Bessel functions, and we'll show a graph later on. Actually, let me pull it up right now. So these are your Bessel function graphs, which basically tell you that with increasing index, the amplitude of your sidebands are not static. So as you increase the mod index, the amplitude gets louder, then gets softer, then gets louder, then gets softer, based on Bessel function behavior and other things we'll get to later. So this is our classic algorithm 5 single operator self-feedback. So let's go to let's change this to algorithm 6 and listen to what happens here. Completely different timbre space and behavior than our algorithm 5. Back to 2 operator feedback. Now you can hear we go into noise very quickly, so let's back off the feedback, take it again. So you can see we have a total different timbral evolution. Now, if you've been paying attention, you notice something very interesting here. As we bring up the index of the modulator with the single traditional feedback, it's that very classic sawtooth wave evolution. Notice what happens here. Sounds like a square wave. And you might be thinking, we still have our one-to-one relationship. How is that happening? Because I've always been told that in order to make a square wave, you have to have a 2-to-1 relationship where your carrier is 1, your modulator is 2, and then you get the square wave harmonic structure. So why are we having a square wave behavior with this? Now you can hear it's not a pure square wave, it's got a lot more harmonic content. But the question is, what happened to our even harmonics? So we're going to get nerdy again. So let's go over here and pull up this bad boy. So this is an expanded harmonic amplitude table for a one-to-one relationship showing all the various harmonics that are created. So we're going to focus on the big red one in the middle, the blue one, and the green one, because that's your first, second, and third order harmonic. And this is showing both the positive and negative sidebands, because as you remember in FM, we create a sideband that is the carrier frequency plus the modulator and the carrier frequency minus the modulator. One of the really curious things is that your minus sidebands, all the odd number minus sidebands are phase inverted, whereas the even numbered minus sidebands are not. So that's why when you look to the right of the table, you'll see everything is first peak positive phase. So the red, blue, and green, their instances are positive. If you go to the left of the graph, you'll see the red is positive, it's in the dead center. Your blue is inverted, and your green is positive again. Why does this matter? Because we do know that FM is a through zero process. So at a one-to-one relationship, all your harmonic orders over 3 and above are in the negative zone, not just the left side, but the negative zone, which means they fold over into the positive range and then flip their phase again. So basically what's happening in this phenomenon here is all the even numbered harmonics are being phase inverted on the reflection as you raise index, and they're canceling out. So that's why it goes to just the odds. Now, as we increase it more and more, as it follows this table for higher order harmonics, the phases again invert and come back and disappear, and so you get... Anyway, so this is the ultra nerdy part of today. We're not going to visit it again because once you add a lot of modulations, this just goes crazy. But I wanted to demonstrate it so you get a handle on why that anticipated behavior is happening. So this opens a couple of really interesting things for us because we get a harmonic density with long feedback algorithms that we don't get in other FM operator relationships. And we have the ability to have them generate a lot more cancellations. So we have some timbre behaviors that are different than the norm. So let's dial some of these up. Okay, let's go here. So again, I'm going to highlight the difference between algorithm 5 and algorithm 6 with the single and 2 operator feedback loops. So this is the basic version. Just sort of your resonating sawtooth wave thing. Now we change it. Cool. Now before it went to noise, listen to what happened here. Start getting it right below the edge. We have a nice almost oscillator sync type effect going on here. So now let's see if we can accentuate that. So we know if we raise operator 6 anymore, we're going to get noise. So this is the part that so many people miss about using these algorithms. We have a tendency to always have our carriers at a level of 99, which makes sense. You want to have the most gain for your patch. If you're mixing some operator stacks, you might have some a little bit less. But in general, we always seem to do this. But when you're using algorithms 4 and algorithm 6, okay, your carrier is feeding back to the top of the stack. So its output level also is a control of the feedback. Okay, so it's not just the feedback setting. Okay, and it's not just operator that has the top of the stack. It's the carrier as well. So a lot of people say, oh, this makes noise, I'm backing away. So we can change the harmonic characteristics by changing the carrier output, the feedback level, and the modulator output. So check this out. Started with the noise. Okay, so now we stopped the noise, and now let's bring in more modulator. Let's bring it down. Start down really far. Let's crank this all the way. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. So now we're getting some really nice full harmonic distortion, or a nice fuzzy, almost overdriven characteristic to it. So it's not just digital noise and hash that you get from aliasing. It's literally more like a saturated waveform. Now, you've noticed we've actually had to lose gain on our patch as we've dialed in the harmonics for what we want. So you have to turn everything up, and some of you may have noticed this might be a little heavy in the background noise right now because I have to gain stages so that I can use some lower carrier volumes. Anyway, so let's take something like this and dial it in. So now we got a pretty nice oscillator sync type sound. So let's go to this other thing that I made here, which is a slow evolving version of that. I'm sorry. This is using algorithm 4, which is a triple stack. So you're going to see I have my carrier number 4 at 91. I've got my op5 at 75, and I've got my op6 at 93. So we're going to play around with this middle guy. Let's bring him up to 85. Okay, that's pretty good. So now we have a very rich harmonic motion. That here you can hear some nice variations of as it evolves. So, a couple of weird quirks when you use long feedback. When you detune your operators, you get accentuated beating because of the feedback. So check this out. This is with none. Okay, now we're going to crank the detune of operator 5. 4 and 6 are still at... let me make this clean, sorry. So down here, before the index gets too high, it's got a nice beating, like a little detuning. But watch what happens as the index goes high and the feedback starts saturating the system. You hear that little zunkin, zunkin, zunkin. So we got the start of a nice pad here. So let's have some fun. Pop some effects on this bad boy. Now we can play with the ratios. So these are all 1-to-1s now. Now we'll bring up the middle modulator. Bring up the top one. Let's tweak in our guys a little more. nice one. So by changing our ratios, we have a nice square wave start. Let me just show you the EG really quick. I've got basically complementary envelope shapes on this. So operator 5 is evolving at a different rate than operator 6. So it starts square because there's a lot of 5, all right, and then 6 comes in later. And if you listen closely, when 6 comes in all the way, you can see it's on a ratio of 3. You'll hear the octave in a fifth overtone. So that's actually kind of cool. So, kind of cool stuff that typically you don't hear out of hardware like this. So, that was a lot compressed really quick. I'm going to check the chat, throw some questions in there. We can backtrack over stuff, all right? Ba-da-ba-bum. First of all, thanks to everybody who's spending their Sunday evening here. Kosh, Simon, Paul, Wags, Robbie, Keith, Homegrown, Janseta, Keith. Wow, a lot of people. Jason, thank you. This will definitely... All right, Exorb, Geosynth. Hey, thanks, Jamie. Jamie serenaded us with some gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous third wave patches, and now I'm here to do all the ugly stuff with FM feedback. So, good. So yeah, so there are a lot of, wow, good question. Okay, to the question, Andrew, additive synthesis is obviously the ultimate in control capability because you basically can do every harmonic at any amplitude evolving over time any way you want. So yeah, you can easily do all this FM stuff in additive with two caveats, okay? First caveat is you have to set up a ton load of parameters because you have to control the volume of each single one independently. Second part is you have to also be able to have individual phase modulation of them, okay? So you have to have a way to be able to, in real time, shift and or invert their phase. And typically, in any additive synthesis engine I've seen so far, you do not have control of phase, okay? Because to mimic what FM does, as you bring in harmonics, okay, you have to be able to bring them in a non-linear fashion to mimic the phase cancellations that happen in FM. So you can do it, but it is so much work. So this is where I historically have always said FM is the sweet spot between capability and accessibility, as it were. Because you can do so much changes with very few parameter manipulations. All right, let's see. Unfortunately, no, you cannot apply envelopes to the different detuned stages. However, Okay, I'm going to show you an example later on, Jamie, where we can do a trick around that. So even though I can't control the detune, I can control the amplitude of the detuned operator. So if I wanted to, let's do this real quick. So I'm going to totally whack out. Let's change our envelopes here so we get everybody coming in all at once. Here. And dun, 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 dun. Let's get these up all the way. All right, here we go. Okay, so our operator 6 is doing our detuning. So when it's on, it's doing that thing. So if we take the envelope down to 0, we can now envelope that. But of course, its harmonic content is gone as well. So it's not like I have an individual pitch EG, which would mimic that effect. I can do that on the SY99, but I can't do it here. But since you brought that up, let's talk about an example of where you would use that. Let's see, I have it here somewhere. Where the hell did I put it? There it is. Okay, so let's break down this sound. This is using algorithm 6, which is our 3 stacks of 2 with our long feedback on 5 and 6. So that's this part here. You'll see I have no detune on 5, but I have a lot of detune on 6. Let's turn it off so you can hear what it's doing. So that's without it, not that interesting. Well, that's actually kind of cool. Now, if we leave this running, sorry, didn't mean to change that, 38. Let's bring this up here. There's that accentuated beat crossover point because of the feedback. So I have it enveloped so that it will disappear before it loops over. And I'm using that component to accentuate our operator 1 and 2 combination, which is a suboctave square wave. So now we have this bass sound. This is just the 2-op pair. This is the suboctave square. We have a lot of velocity on the feedback stack. And so that can get pretty massive. Now I'm going to do a DX7-2 trick, unison poly. Hello, what did I just turn off? Oh, sorry. There we go. Now let's envelope that longer. That's pretty massive. And by changing the feedback, we can change the character. So now you can get some big-ass bass sounds with a lot of high harmonic motion. Let's tweak this out a little different here. Again. Let's make some nice chiffy stuff here. There we go. And if we really crank them, we can get noise there. So you have a lot of versatility there with doing things that, like I say, a lot of people don't do with their DXs because the noise scares them away. All right, back to the chat. Let's see here. Yeah, the V80. It was fun working on it, but it deserved a rightful cancellation. It was going to be a 1-year instrument anyway, so the V80 FD. I never could find my photos on that because I had Polaroids. It was such a cool look. All right, so that's really abstract stuff, and a lot of that's kind of like dirty and not tweaked out. So let's go over some tweaked sounds, just so you guys can hear some of the timbres you can put together here. All right, so I already sort of demonstrated some evolving patches with that nice fizzy harmonic growth. Here's one. So it starts with a prominent second overtone, drops into the fuzz, and gives you the pseudo sync effect. And these things just really effect up really nice. Sawtooth wave amplitude modulation. Let's turn. Now this is a really fuzzy one. And I can bring in the stuff on the mod wheel. Yeah, let's put that in mono mode. Port them into. That's actually very fun. Let's actually put it on Aftertouch instead. That's a better way to do it. And I'll put the pitch here. What was that? 65, not 99. It's funny how you don't lose the muscle memory from this bad boy. Now we get it really beefy. Let's do unison mono. So again, a very non-thin FM sound. It is a nice, thick, in-your-face monster. All right. There's another sync. Okay. So this is a different version that I've got more offsets in the ratios and bigger discrepancies in the envelope times, so you can hear individual pieces more discreetly as it evolves. And I've put it like right on the edge of noise. ask, why would I want the noise components in there? Well, short answer, you want the noise components in there because it affects up really well. So all that noise harmonic content does a really good job of exciting the chorus and things. All right, so let's show you another thing you can do with it. So again, when you're doing FM and you want to do analog emulations, the most difficult thing that we have to do is emulate very rich and dense harmonic structures of standard analog waveforms. And the standard self-feedback sawtooth FM wave just doesn't have the beef that you really need to have if you really want to get the thickness of an analog synth. I've shown on the SY99 a lot of phase tricks that you can do and the multiple waveforms to get around that. But on the original 6-ops, obviously we don't have that at our disposal. So if you take the time to find the sweet spots between feedback, modulator index, and your carrier volume, you can get some pretty cool stuff. Shoot, where did this go? All right. So this is algorithm 4, and that's the 2 stacks of 3. And what I've done with operators 1, 2, and 3, which are the non-feedback loop side, and what I've done here is basically made one part of my timbre / one oscillator, which is a basic beating sawtoothy thing. I have a little aftertouch play on it. And this is a classic DX7 trick where we're using a fixed frequency carrier to get that beating. Okay. I'm using operator 3, modulating operator 2 at a 1 to 2. The reason why I'm doing that is because at the amount of modulation index that I have for operator 3, I want the fundamental to be a little louder. And if this is at 1, because of all those Bessel function things I showed you before, I don't get as much character. So I'm shifting the harmonic amplitude up by moving my carrier. So this is my oscillator A, as it were. I'm using the stack of 4, 5, and 6 with the long feedback to do my harmonically rich square wave. I'm sorry, sawtooth wave. So you'll see here we have our 1-to-1 relationships for everybody for 4, 5, and 6. And we've dialed in our levels of 94, 76, and 76 using a feedback of 6. So I'm going to turn off the feedback here so you can hear what this sounds like without the feedback. Okay, not too bad. So we bring this up. Sorry. That has a whole different thickness than having the single operator algorithm 3 version. Okay. See how it gets thin and nasally? This is much, much better at the harmonic density with the full feedback here. So now when we put them together, by the way, this is unaffected. So just imagine what that sounds like in a GX7 with two of them layered up. So let's go back to the non-cheap version. So this is just a single DX7. This is an OG6 op sound you can do on a regular DX7, and it's this thick. Gotta love the auto shut off on the mic. Sorry about that. So, as I said at the crowd at Synthfest, when I did this presentation with Robbie, and they were all saying, "Oh, well, of course FM is fat. You have an 816 with 8 of them." Well, that wasn't what we were doing. So, if you're in the studio, you do this with it. Put some shimmer on that baby. Cool. So that's one of the advantages of having the longer feedback loop. You have, again, an accelerated amount of harmonic content with index, which means you minimize the amplitude changes that you get by dynamically changing your index. And then you have all these additional complex interactions because of the through zero, blah, 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 blah. So the key is you have to find the cracks, because let's go back into this sound. I'm going to turn off the aftertouch. Let me turn off all the effects. Sorry. Let's isolate our long feedback stack. So check this out. Just so you can hear it easier, we're going to turn off all our detunes. And let's accelerate. No, let's not. So I'm just going to change these like 3 values here. We've lost it. From 76 to 81. We've totally lost the program. So, same thing with the carrier. This is the original. Okay. Taking this guy just down to, what, 94. Made all the difference in the world. So minute changes matter a lot in FM, especially when you have a lot of operators stacked and when you have any kind of feedback, but again, multiple feedback loops on the SYs or this long feedback loop here. You've got to dial it in and you got to look for the cracks. And so the thing that's cool about these is that there's a lot of really cool cracks you can find. So I'm going to play out a couple more patches here to end. Let me see if there's any other quickie questions here. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. All right. So, guess we're going to just play through some stuff here. So, this is something that's a hybrid of a very digital characteristic from some operators and then the thick analog thing on the others. And the reason why it's useful to have these kinds of things is I'm layering that sound now in performance mode with the straight DX80 version. So we have one all analog layer with the digital analog layer. Turn that down. So we gotta get the best of both worlds. Digital. With the analog underpinnings. Let's see what else I have in here. That's the bass sound we did before. Another sync lead. Another sync lead. Let's see. Should have named these instead of init perf. Nope. I'm sorry. I think I'd be more prepared for this. That one. Where's my morph? Ah, here we go. This is fun. So this is a layer that has one standard sound on one side. We've got a long feedback one on the other side. And I'm using the mod wheel to morph between the two. So I call it Chiffy mod wheel morph because it starts with a hollow, woody vocally. And it morphs to standard DX brass. Turned off the mono, sorry. That's kind of fun. Let's see, what else do I have here? Same one again. Yeah, I'm sorry. Anyway, we are coming up on the hour very quickly. Sorry, don't know where that came from. Okay. All right. All right. Tell you what we're going to finish with. We're going to do this live, so this could crash and burn. But let's go to the SY here. So sorry you got to see the back of my head. But we can do 3 operator long feedback loops. And that's the max in the original 6-op. But of course on the SY99 I have patchable feedback. So I can do a 6 operator feedback loop. So let's see what that sounds like. So what we're going to do is we're going to patch in our operator 1 to 4. Let's do 4, 5, and 6, so we can walk up the tree, as it were. So we're going to start with a 4-op loop, then a 5-op loop, and then a 6-op loop. So let's go to our input page and let's turn off this one and this one. Let's go to our outputs. So got our sine wave. So we're bringing in our modulators. Let's bring that down. Let's go to this actually, and let's pull up an FFT. It's better than the back of my head. All right, so this is our 4 operator loop. Let's put some enveloping on that. Back to our outputs here, and let's vary them up. So we got some nifty stuff going there. Let's go back here and let's change the feedback to 6. Now, interesting, check that out. Lower feedback brings out the square wave character a little bit more. Alright, so now let's go crazy and let's bring in 5 operators thing here. Let's go back to the envelopes. Oops, envelopes are here. Get these guys fixed here. Ba-ba-da-bum-bum. Right. Alright. Green all to the top. Alright, so now let's go back to our operator guys here. Now this is a 5. Alright, what'd I do? I missed something up here. 233. Did I turn somebody off that I didn't mean to? Nope. That's all good. We have that patched. Must be in my envelopes. I must have. Oh, here we go. That's it. Right there. All right. Okay. Sorry about that. So now I have a 5. Now let's go to here and let's make it a 6er. So now this is a full 6-off feedback loop. And we got it full blast. Go back over to here. Start really high. Let's turn all these guys mid-range. This is going to be a little... So now... So notice, depending which operator I change the output of, it's kind of like... works like a parametric EQ in a weird way. So operator 3 is bringing out that frequency range. Operator 4 is bringing out a different frequency range. 5 is another one. So this is like your highs. This is like your mids. Actually, it's probably low mids. And this is like your 3-4K. Let's see what 6 does. Pretty much same as 5. Does phase modulation make a Yamaha FM synthesizer? Actually use phase modulation distortion without speed variation in the synthesizer to achieve FM. So, yes, they are phase modulation, and one of the reasons why they work so well is that they are all based on lookup tables. They do nothing calculated in real time. So one of the things that's kind of funky about that, unless you have the OPS 7 chipsynth emulation, all the software FM synths actually have some degree of pitch stability and tuning issues because they don't use lookup tables. They're actually calculating the various things in real time, and they drift because they don't use the hard tables. So that's one of the reasons why they're able to do the DX7 in the first place, is because they had all this stuff coded in tables. So to answer your question, Andrew, it wasn't just that it was phase modulation, but they did some cheats because of the computational power that they had available with them at the time. So if anybody goes in and tries to do a lot of sophisticated FM stuff with feedback, phase offsets, and all that kind of stuff, and you go ahead and do long evolving patches, you'll notice weird things will happen because the fact that they are doing real-time calculations and they are not 100% locked in like a DX7 is. Alrighty, so let's see. It's almost 1 o'clock. Gotta wrap it up. I wish I had something really cool to basically close you out with, but what I will do is you can go crazy with feedback and feedback loops, basically going across multiple operators. And in my YouTube videos, look for the video that's on what I call the MC Escher algorithm. Okay, that is an algorithm I set up on the SY99 that utilizes infinite bidirectional feedback. Not only that, it's cross-stack. So if you imagine your algorithm 4 setup here, I basically have 4 feeding back to 3, 1 feeding back to 6, and just because I can, I think I have the middle operators cross-patched as well. So the feedback is literally cycling in both directions simultaneously, sort of like your Escher staircase. And I demonstrate a patch there that's got some really, really cool timbral spaces in it that's real-time controllable. Anyway, appreciate you taking your time on a Sunday. We're going to call it for now. So I'll leave the chat running for a bit. Yeah, I hope you found it entertaining. Hopefully it didn't put you to sleep before Jason and Jackson get to put you to bed in your gym jams later. And thanks again. So again, I'm trying to do these on approximately a monthly basis, but obviously stuff happens sometimes. But anyway, again, thank you so much, and everybody have a good one. See you later.